The release of Dawn of War 4 has just been delayed. It was originally meant to come out on September 17th, and Jan Tayson, the game's director, has just announced in a video that it's now going to be coming out December 3rd. So about 2.5 months later than we were originally told. I was going to release a video right now about everything that we knew about the game in anticipation for its launch, and naturally this has kind of put that on hold. I have some opinions about this, so I just wanted to take a moment to go over why this is a good thing and all the things that make me nervous, because there's quite a few implications baked into this announcement. So to start off, I'm going to talk about what I think is good about it, and I think what everyone can agree on is we want this game to be the best game possible. So when a dev says a game needs more time, it's genuinely good news that they want this delayed. If they know for a fact that the product that they're going to give us isn't going to be good enough come September 17th, then I completely support what they're doing. He got on camera himself. It wasn't just some faceless reveal that it was going to be delayed that the community had to grapple with, and I appreciate that. And after all the research I've done on this studio, I do believe that their reasoning here is completely sound. The claims were that the base game is really good and they're getting good feedback on that, but at the moment there's too many bugs. They want to improve performance and polish the experience for that release. I think it's really important that Dawn of War 4 doesn't flounder this initial release, because if they can get that edict from the community that this is good and we want them to keep developing it, then they can actually support it in the way that Dawn of War 1 and Dawn of War 2 originally were. So getting this right from the get-go is a great thing. I'm naturally very excited for this game. I took work off and now that leave is completely pointless, so I am bummed about that. But the things that get to me the most about this announcement are the implications around what it means when you delay a game when that original release date was announced so recently. If you say that you're going to release a game in a year and a half, and then you develop, you get to that point, and then you realize you just need more time, I understand that. That is completely reasonable. There are things like scope creep. Developing a game is hard. So when you make such a long shot of an announcement for release and then you can't make that, take more time. Sure, I get it. The thing that worries me here is this September release date was set within the last 3 months. This was announced at the Warhammer Skulls event in May. We all knew the game looked a little rough, and I think some didn't, and some did have faith that what they were doing in the background was going to be good enough by the time it was going to be out. But for them to actually say that it was going to be out in September less than 11 weeks ago, and then push that back now, is a little bit jarring. It makes me wonder why they committed to that in the first place if they were so far off, because they had way more alpha tests before that reveal than they did after. So there's a few theories as to what might have really caused this to happen at the end of the day, because they had to have had some faith that this was possible considering how recent that promise of the release date was. The first point that I can't verify too much is that Warhammer Skulls seems to be associated with a few reveals that there is pressure to get out at the time of that event. For instance, Mechanicus 2 pretty much said they were going to drop very soon after that with very little fanfare. And also Dawn of War 4 at that event claimed to have a release date that was very, very close. I don't know if there's any kind of pressure that these developers are getting from Games Workshop to have real tangible release announcements at their event, but if there is, that could be an element as to why we got a release date that they weren't able to meet. The second and most obvious one is that there were just too many bugs. I remember in research for the video that I was going to release today, they had found over 200 bugs and other elements of polish that they wanted to implement as a result of that community feedback. There was also widespread feedback on the 2 battle reports that they released after that announcement. They had the Orc vs Space Marine battle report as the first one, and then the Necron vs Adeptus Mechanicus battle report. These were a really cool showing of what these factions can do, and it was great to watch, but there was clearly some jank. In the Dawn of War 4 Discord, people were talking about the Necron zone of Dominion being a bit too distracting and bright. There was a lot of passionate feedback on mechanics, and in those bat reps there was also some issues with the animations that I was seeing on different units, such as the Space Marine on the bike. These are things that were pretty clear, even if you weren't hyper-analysing these battle reports. If they can help finesse these issues before launch, then this is a fantastic thing. And it would make sense that this is why they're doing this in response to that community feedback. It also makes me nervous because they've clearly put a lot of marketing into this. I've seen ads everywhere, though obviously targeted at me, for Dawn of War 4 on Instagram and in socials. I could never claim to know how much money they're spending, but these hype cycles are important and they take a lot of effort to set up for a game's launch. When you delay a game, that hype can suddenly fizzle. Mechanicus 2 is another great example of this, as my video on that had pretty much no one in the comments knowing that it had even come out. It had a hype cycle up until its original delay and then just went quiet. They need to make sure they don't go quiet during this delay period or people will forget about it. Algorithms dictate the success of video games these days and everyone is completely attention fried. Something I also liked about the September launch is it was a bit further away from Total War 40k. I will be talking more about Total War 40k in future videos, but there is some crossover between the fans of that game and Dawn of War 4. They are both, though at different scales, Warhammer 40k strategy games. The closer they release to each other, the more likely someone might be to buy one and stick to that as opposed to give both a try. And it's clear that Total War has a larger fan base than Dawn of War does as their core audience. I just hope that the risks associated with a December launch don't end up hurting them at the end of the day. I am seeing an overwhelmingly positive response to this delay from the community. That makes me happy that people seem to be willing to give them a chance. I just hope they use this time wisely. I want this game to work. We've already waited 10 years since the release of Dawn of War 3, if you even count that, and more like 15 if you count since Dawn of War 2. So another few months is not going to hurt. Dawn of War fans are a lot of things, but they are patient. This series has defined a lot of what I love about video games. I don't want a repeat of Dawn of War 3, and if this helps us avoid that, then I'm all for it. We just have to hope that with this commitment to a release date, they know what they're doing this time. Have a good day.